The coffee was still steaming when my wife decided to blow up our 20-year marriage. "From today on, we're in an open relationship," Cleo announced, sliding a printed article across our kitchen table like she was serving divorce papers. The headline read something about modern love and emotional freedom from some wellness blog I'd never heard of. "I'm Orion Vanton, 40 years old, and I've been rewiring houses since before smartphones existed. I understand circuits, voltage, and how things break when you overload them. What I didn't understand was how my wife had apparently rewired her brain overnight." "Interesting timing," I said, scanning the article while sipping my coffee. The piece was half-baked psychology mixed with Instagram philosophy. "Says here both partners need to consent." Cleo waved her hand dismissively. She'd been doing a lot of that lately, dismissing things. My opinions, my schedule, my existence in general. "Oh, you'll love it. No more pressure, no more expectations. We can both explore our authentic selves." Her authentic self apparently had been exploring plenty already. I'd noticed the late-night yoga classes, the new wardrobe, the way she'd started pronouncing namaste like she'd invented it. Cleo had transformed from suburban mom to wellness influencer faster than you could say chakra alignment. "Sounds fair," I said, closing the article and placing my phone face down on the table. "Good thing I already have a girlfriend." The color drained from Cleo's face like I'd flipped a breaker switch. "What did you just say?" I said it sounds fair, and I already have a girlfriend. I finished my coffee, watching her expression cycle through confusion, rage, and panic. "Thanks for bringing this up, honey. I was wondering how to tell you." "No." She slammed her palm on the table, making the sugar bowl jump. "That's not allowed. This is only for me." I opened the folder I'd labeled Agreements the night before, right after I'd found her burner phone in the gym bag she'd left in our bedroom. Amazing what people leave lying around when they think you're too stupid to notice. From the folder, I pulled out printed screenshots of our text thread from 3 weeks ago, where Cleo had asked if I'd be open to exploring new relationship dynamics, and I'd replied, "Sure, whatever makes you happy." Her response had been enthusiastic agreement, complete with heart emojis. Below that was the calendar invite she'd sent titled Open Terms Discussion, with a note about mutual exploration and growth. "Here's your documentation," I said, sliding the papers toward her. "Dated, time-stamped, and saved to the cloud. You asked, I agreed, we both consented. Congratulations, Cleo. You got exactly what you wanted." She stared at the papers like they were written in ancient hieroglyphs. "But you can't already have someone." "Why not? You've been planning this for weeks. Did you think I'd just sit around waiting for you to figure out your authentic self?" The truth was, I didn't have a girlfriend. Yet. But I had something better. I had documentation, a plan, and 20 years of watching my wife underestimate me. "Who is she?" Cleo's voice had gone shrill, the wellness guru act cracking like old paint. "That's not really your business anymore, is it? We're in an open relationship now. Your rules." I stood up, straightened my work shirt, and grabbed my keys. Another day of running Vanton Electric with my brother Derek awaited. Derek, who'd been acting strange lately. Derek, who'd suddenly become very interested in Cleo's new yoga schedule. "Have a great day exploring your authentic self," I called over my shoulder. "I'll be exploring mine too." The drive to the shop gave me time to think. 20 years of marriage, 2 daughters, a successful business built from nothing. Cleo thought she could just flip a switch and change everything. She thought I was the same pushover who used to apologize when she burned dinner. She was about to learn that some circuits, when overloaded, don't just blow a fuse, sometimes they burn the whole house down. At Vanton Electric, my brother Derek was already in the office, feet up on his desk, scrolling through his phone with a grin that made my jaw clench. "Morning, Orion. You look like someone stole your lunch money." "Just family drama," I said, hanging up my jacket. "You know how it is." "Actually, I don't. Never been dumb enough to get married." He laughed at his own joke. What's Cleo complaining about now? Interesting choice of words. Who said she was complaining? Derek's grin faltered for a split second. Just assumed. She seemed frustrated at the barbecue last weekend. The barbecue where Derek had spent an unusual amount of time asking Cleo about her new fitness routine, where he'd offered to help her move some furniture while I was fixing the neighbor's electrical panel, where I'd caught them whispering by the pool like teenagers. She's exploring new horizons, I said. We both are. My phone buzzed with a text from Cleo. We need to talk. This isn't over. I typed back. Already sent the documentation to my lawyer. Talk to him. Another buzz. What lawyer? I didn't respond. Let her wonder. Let her scramble. Let her realize that maybe, just maybe, she'd picked the wrong husband to manipulate. Derek was watching me with curious eyes. Everything okay, brother? Never better, I said, and for the first time in months, I meant it. The game was just beginning, and Cleo had no idea she was playing against someone who understood exactly how to cut the right wires to bring down the whole system. By lunch, half the town knew about our open relationship, thanks to Cleo's best friend Cassie, who had the discretion of a broken fire alarm. I was rewiring a panel at Morrison's Hardware when my phone started buzzing with texts from our neighbors. Apparently, Cleo had called an emergency coffee meeting with her inner circle to discuss her boundary violation crisis. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd wanted an open relationship, got one, then immediately tried to slam it shut when it didn't go her way. Orion? Mrs. Chen from the flower shop peeked around the electrical panel. I hate to ask, but is everything all right at home? Cassie was in here earlier saying something about relationship troubles. Just growing pains, I said, testing the connections. You know how marriage evolves. What I didn't tell her was that I'd spent my lunch break creating a shared photo album titled New Beginnings and setting the privacy to friends only, empty for now, but visible enough to make certain people nervous. Back at the shop, Derek was on the phone, speaking in hushed tones. He hung up quickly when I walked in. Client? I asked. Yeah, the Henderson project. They're being difficult about the timeline. Funny thing about the Henderson project, I'd talked to them yesterday and they were thrilled with our progress. But I let it slide. Derek was digging his own grave. I just needed to hand him the shovel. My phone rang. Cleo. Orion, this has gone too far. Cassie says you're telling people we're getting divorced. I haven't told anyone we're getting divorced. I've told people exactly what you told me. We're in an open relationship. Your idea, your words. That's not what I meant, and you know it. Actually, I don't know it. Maybe you should have been clearer in your communication. Good thing we have it all documented. Stop saying that. What documentation? The same documentation I mentioned this morning. The same documentation that's now in my lawyer's hands. The same documentation that proves this was entirely your initiative. Silence on the other end. Then, I want to file a complaint at your company. This is workplace harassment. Go ahead. Derek's here if you want to talk to him about it. Another pause, longer this time. Why would I talk to Derek? He's my business partner. Any complaints about my behavior would go through him first. I'm sure he'd be very interested to hear your perspective on our relationship dynamics. The line went quiet, except for her breathing. I could practically hear the gears grinding in her head. I have to go, she said finally. Say hi to your yoga instructor for me. What was his name again? Brad? Brett? His name is Brian, and this conversation is over. Give Brian my best. Tell him I appreciate him keeping my wife so flexible. She hung up. I turned to find Derek staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Trouble in paradise? He asked. Just the opposite. Everything's finally out in the open. That afternoon, I got a call from Miles, our head foreman and my closest friend since high school. He'd heard the gossip and wanted the real story. So Cleo really asked for an open marriage? Her exact words were, "From today on, we're in an open relationship. I've got it documented." And you told her you already had a girlfriend? I did. Do you actually have a girlfriend? Not yet, but I'm working on it. Miles laughed. You sneaky bastard. What's the plan? The plan is to give Cleo exactly what she asked for, an open relationship, just not the version she had in mind. Need any help? Actually, yes. Remember your cousin Lisa, the one who moved back from Chicago? The lawyer? What about her? Is she single? And would she be interested in helping me make a point? She's single, she's smart, and she hates cheaters. Her ex-husband pulled something similar. I think you two would get along great. Perfect. Set up a dinner, somewhere public, somewhere Cleo likes to go. You're evil, Orion. I like it. That evening, I came home to find Cleo in full crisis mode. She'd rearranged the living room, lit candles everywhere, and was wearing the dress she'd bought for our anniversary 3 years ago. I made your favorite dinner, she said, forcing a smile. I thought we could talk. Really talk. That's sweet, but I already ate. Lisa and I grabbed dinner at Romano's. Her face went through several color changes. Lisa. My girlfriend, remember? We discussed this morning. You took her to Romano's? That's our place? Was our place. We're in an open relationship now. I'm exploring my options, just like you suggested. I never suggested you take some woman to our special restaurant. Actually, you suggested I explore my authentic self. Romano's is where I feel most authentic. Great breadsticks, terrible wine, and now, great company. Cleo's wellness guru composure finally cracked. This isn't what I wanted. Then maybe you should have been more specific about what you did want. But here's the thing, Cleo. You don't get to change the rules in the middle of the game. You open this door. I'm just walking through it. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. For 20 years, I'd been the accommodating husband, the one who bent over backward to keep the peace. She'd gotten used to me being predictable, manageable, safe. Who is she? Cleo whispered. Someone who appreciates honesty. Someone who doesn't play games. Someone who says what she means and means what she says. Everything I just described was the opposite of Cleo, and we both knew it. I want to meet her. That's not how open relationships work, according to your article. Remember? Separate emotional spaces and independent exploration. Your rules, Cleo. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Had a great time tonight. Derek seems like an interesting brother. Talk soon. I showed Cleo the message. Lisa says hi. The candles flickered in the sudden silence. Cleo's carefully planned reconciliation dinner sat cooling on the table between us like evidence of her desperation. This isn't over, she said finally. You're right, I replied. It's just getting started. The next morning, I woke up to find Cleo's side of the bed empty and her car gone. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Staying at Cassie's until you come to your senses. Perfect. I had work to do. At Vanton Electric, Derek was unusually chatty, asking questions about my new girlfriend with the kind of interest that made my skin crawl. He wanted to know how long we'd been seeing each other, how serious it was, whether Cleo knew about her. Cleo knows everything she needs to know, I said, pulling up the work schedule on my computer. Speaking of which, I'm taking the afternoon off. Lisa and I are going furniture shopping. Furniture shopping? That sounds pretty serious. Just helping her pick out a new couch. She's redecorating after her divorce. Derek's expression shifted. She's divorced? Recently. Her husband was cheating with his business partner's wife. Can you imagine? The betrayal, the family drama. Some people have no loyalty. I watched Derek's face carefully. He was trying to look sympathetic, but his jaw had gone tight. That's rough, he managed. Lisa handled it well, though. Took him for everything he was worth. Turns out adultery doesn't play well in divorce court, especially when there's documentation. Documentation? Photos, texts, financial records. Her lawyer was very thorough. The husband thought he was being clever, but Lisa was always 3 steps ahead. Derek had gone pale. What happened to the business partner? Lost everything. Wife, kids, business, reputation. Turns out the community doesn't take kindly to that kind of betrayal. Last I heard, he was working construction in another state. I stood up and grabbed my jacket. Anyway, I should get going. Lisa's meeting me at Romano's for lunch, then we're hitting the furniture stores. Should be a fun afternoon. Derek nodded stiffly. Have a good time. Oh, I will. Lisa's great company. Smart, funny, and she has this amazing ability to see right through people's lies. I think you'd like her, Derek. She reminds me a lot of you, actually. Very perceptive. I left him sitting at his desk, staring at his phone like it might explode. At Romano's, Lisa was waiting in our usual booth, the same one Cleo and I had shared for years. She was everything I'd told Derek. Smart, funny, and blessed with a lawyer's instinct for spotting weakness. So, she said, sliding a manila folder across the table, I did some research on your situation. Interesting reading. What kind of research? Public records mostly. Your business partnership agreement, property records, that sort of thing. Did you know Derek's been making some unusual financial moves lately? I opened the folder. Bank statements, loan applications, incorporation papers for something called D. Vanton Enterprises. He's starting his own company? Looks like it. Filed the paperwork 3 weeks ago. Same week your wife suggested the open relationship. The pieces clicked into place like a circuit diagram. He's planning to leave the business. More than that. Based on these loan applications, he's planning to take your biggest clients with him. Look at this list of references. Every major contract we'd landed in the past 2 years was on Derek's reference list. Our client relationships built over decades, reduced to leverage for his new venture. There's more, Lisa said. I ran a social media search on your wife. Very active online, lots of photos. Interesting who shows up in the background of her recent posts. She slid her phone across the table. Cleo's Instagram feed, filtered to show only the past month. Derek appeared in 6 different photos, always in the background, always trying to look casual, always positioned like he belonged there. They're not very subtle, Lisa observed. They think I'm stupid. Are you? I looked at her across the table, this woman who'd agreed to help a stranger expose his cheating wife and backstabbing brother. What do you think? I think they have no idea what they're dealing with. That afternoon, we did go furniture shopping, but not for Lisa's apartment. We went to the most expensive store in town, the one where all the wealthy wives liked to browse, the one where Cassie worked part-time as an interior design consultant. Orion? Cassie's voice was sharp with surprise. What are you doing here? Shopping for a new couch, I said, wrapping my arm around Lisa's waist. Lisa, meet Cassie. Cassie, this is my girlfriend Lisa. Cassie's eyes went wide. She'd probably been expecting to catch me in a lie, to run back to Cleo with proof that I was bluffing about having a girlfriend. Nice to meet you, Lisa said smoothly, extending her hand. Orion's told me so much about his friends. Friends, Cassie repeated weakly. Well, current friends, Lisa corrected with a smile that could cut glass. He's been very honest about which relationships are worth maintaining and which ones aren't. We spent an hour browsing furniture we had no intention of buying, making sure Cassie overheard enough conversation to fuel a week's worth of gossip. Lisa played her part perfectly, discussing our future plans and how nice it was to be with someone who valued honesty and loyalty. By the time we left, Cassie was practically vibrating with the need to call Cleo. That was fun, Lisa said as we walked to my truck. Your wife's friend seems intense. She's about to be more intense. Give it 20 minutes. 18 minutes later, my phone rang. Cleo. You took her furniture shopping? At Cassie's store? I needed a couch. Lisa has excellent taste. This is deliberate humiliation. This is me living my life. You wanted an open relationship, remember? This is what it looks like. Not like this. You're supposed to be discreet. Where in your article did it mention discretion? I must have missed that part. Everyone's talking about us. Good. Maybe they'll talk about how you asked for this arrangement in the first place. Maybe they'll talk about how you've been planning this for weeks. Maybe they'll talk about who you've been planning it with. Silence. I don't know what you mean. Sure you don't. By the way, Derek seemed very interested in Lisa today. Asked a lot of questions about her divorce, her ex-husband's cheating scandal, almost like he was worried about something. Why would Derek be worried about your girlfriend's divorce? Good question, Cleo. Why would he be? I hung up and turned to Lisa, who was grinning like she'd just won the lottery. You're enjoying this? I said. Immensely. It's been a long time since I got to watch cheaters panic in real time. It's about to get better. Tomorrow we're having lunch at the country club. Derek's a member there, so is Cleo. Public display of affection? Public display of happiness. There's a difference. I like the way you think, Orion Vanton. Just wait until you see what I have planned for the weekend. The truth was, I was making it up as I went along. But Cleo and Derek didn't know that. They thought I was always 3 steps ahead, when really I was just 1 step ahead of their stupidity. Sometimes that's all the advantage you need. The country club lunch was a masterpiece of strategic humiliation. Lisa and I arrived at peak time, when the dining room was packed with the local business elite. I'd specifically requested the table by the window, maximum visibility, perfect lighting for photos. Derek was there as expected, having lunch with potential clients. What he didn't expect was seeing me walk in with a stunning woman who commanded attention the moment she entered the room. Is that your brother? Lisa asked, nodding toward Derek's table. That's him. The one who looks like he swallowed a live wire. Derek was staring at us with unconcealed shock. He'd probably convinced himself that Lisa was either imaginary or some desperate woman I'd hired to play a part. Seeing her in person, confident, successful, obviously out of my league, was clearly scrambling his assumptions. He's not what I expected, Lisa said. What did you expect? Someone more impressive. He looks like a middle-aged man trying too hard to look young. She was right. Derek had always been the flashy brother, the one who bought expensive clothes and drove the newest truck. But next to Lisa's understated elegance, his gold watch and designer shirt looked desperate. Orion! Derek appeared at our table like a bad magic trick. Fancy seeing you here. Derek, meet Lisa. Lisa, my business partner, Derek. Lisa extended her hand with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The brother. I've heard so much about you. All good, I hope, Derek said, his charm offensive in full swing. Illuminating, Lisa replied. Orion's been very thorough in his descriptions. Derek's smile faltered. Well, I should let you two get back to your lunch. Actually, I said, since you're here, maybe you can help settle a debate. Lisa and I were discussing business partnerships. She thinks loyalty is the most important factor. I think it's trust. What's your opinion? Derek's face went through several interesting color changes. Both are important. But if you had to choose, Lisa pressed, if you discovered your partner was working behind your back, planning to leave, maybe even conspiring with your family members, what would be more important then? That's a very specific scenario. Is it? I asked. Seems pretty common to me. People get greedy, start making plans, think they can manipulate their way into a better deal. Derek mumbled something about getting back to his clients and practically fled to his table. Subtle as a brick through a window, Lisa observed. He's panicking. Good. Our conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the entrance. Cleo had arrived, flanked by Cassie and 2 other women from her yoga class. She was scanning the room like a hawk looking for prey. Her eyes found our table and locked on. Even from across the room, I could see her jaw clench. "Showtime," I murmured to Lisa. Cleo approached our table with the determined stride of someone about to make a scene. Her yoga crew followed like backup singers. "Orion," she said, her voice artificially bright. "What a surprise." "Cleo, ladies." I stood up politely. "I'd like you to meet Lisa. Lisa, this is my wife Cleo." Lisa rose gracefully, extending her hand. "So nice to finally meet you. Orion speaks of you often." "Does he?" Cleo's grip was probably tighter than necessary. "And what does he say?" "That you're very direct about what you want." The yoga crew exchanged glances. They'd clearly come expecting drama, and Lisa's composed politeness was throwing them off script. "We were just discussing relationship dynamics," I said. "Lisa has fascinating insights about modern marriage." "I'm sure she does," Cleo said icily. "Actually," Lisa said, "I was just telling Orion how refreshing it is to meet a couple who can communicate so openly about their needs. Not everyone is mature enough to handle an open relationship." Cleo's smile became strained. "It takes a special kind of understanding." "Absolutely. And such trust. Knowing that your partner is being completely honest about their other relationships, not hiding anything or sneaking around. That level of transparency is rare." I watched Cleo process this, realizing that Lisa was praising the very arrangement she now regretted creating. "Yes, well," Cleo said, "transparency is important." "Orion tells me you're very involved in the wellness community," Lisa continued. "That must be fulfilling work." "It is. And it must keep you busy. All those classes, those late-night sessions. Very dedicated." Cleo's eyes narrowed. "Very." "Well," Lisa said, checking her watch, "we should probably finish our lunch. Orion promised to show me the business this afternoon. I'm looking forward to meeting more of his colleagues." The implication hung in the air. Lisa would be meeting Derek again, this time on our turf, where I controlled the narrative. After Cleo's group retreated to their table, Lisa and I finished our meal while half the dining room watched the drama unfold. "She's rattled," Lisa observed. "Good. But Derek's the real target. He's the one with something to lose." "The business partnership?" "More than that. His reputation, his client relationships, his future. He thinks he's been clever, but he's about to learn that some games have consequences." That afternoon, I gave Lisa the full tour of Vanton Electric. Our workshop, our equipment, our project boards covered with upcoming contracts. Derek tagged along, trying to act casual while obviously fishing for information about Lisa's intentions. "Impressive operation," Lisa said, examining our client list. "These are some major accounts." 20 years of relationship building," I said. "Trust takes time to develop." "And seconds to destroy," Lisa added, looking directly at Derek. "What kind of law do you practice?" Derek asked. "Corporate litigation mostly. Breach of contract, partnership disputes, fiduciary responsibility cases." Derek went pale. "Fiduciary responsibility?" "When business partners violate their duty of loyalty to each other. It's more common than you'd think. People get greedy, start making side deals, forget that their actions have legal consequences." "That sounds complicated." "Not really. The law is pretty clear about what constitutes betrayal of trust. Documentation makes it even clearer." I watched Derek's Adam's apple bob as he swallowed hard. "Well," he said, "I should get back to work." After he left, Lisa turned to me with a grin. "He's going to crack soon." "How can you tell?" 20 years of reading guilty faces. He's already composing his confession speech." She was right. Within an hour, Derek was in my office, closing the door behind him and looking like a man about to face a firing squad. "Orion, we need to talk." "About what?" "About the business. About things." "What things?" I know Lisa's a lawyer. I know she's been asking questions about partnership agreements and fiduciary responsibility. She's naturally curious about my work. This isn't a joke. If she's investigating the business, why would she be investigating the business, Derek? Is there something to investigate? He stared at me for a long moment, realizing he'd walked into a trap. Any denial would sound hollow. Any admission would be a confession. I've been thinking about some changes, he said finally. What kind of changes? Maybe branching out on my own, exploring new opportunities. With our clients? Some of them might be interested in following me. I see. And when were you planning to discuss this with your business partner? I'm discussing it now. No, Derek. Now you're confessing it. There's a difference. He slumped into the chair across from my desk. How long have you known? Long enough? What are you going to do about it? I leaned back in my chair, studying my brother's face. 20 years of partnership, of building something together, and he'd been ready to throw it all away for what? A bigger slice of the pie? A chance to be the only name on the business? I'm going to give you exactly what you want, I said finally. What do you mean? You want to be on your own? You want to take our clients and start fresh? Go ahead. Derek's relief was visible. Really? Really. But you're going to do it the right way. We're going to dissolve the partnership legally, divide the assets fairly, and let the clients choose who they want to work with. That's very reasonable of you. I'm a reasonable man, Derek. Always have been. What I didn't tell him was that I'd already spoken to our 3 biggest clients. What I didn't tell him was that they'd all expressed concerns about Derek's recent behavior, his pushiness, his obvious attempts to undermine me. What I didn't tell him was that he was about to discover the difference between being handed something and earning it. There's just one condition, I said. What's that? You tell Cleo yourself. Tonight. Everything. Derek's face went white. Tell her what? About your business plans, about how long you've been planning this, about your role in her sudden interest in open relationships. Orion. Those are my terms, Derek. Full disclosure, or I fight the dissolution and make this as messy as possible. Your choice. He sat there for a long moment, weighing his options. Finally, he nodded. I'll talk to her tonight. Good. I'll be there too. With Lisa. Just to make sure nothing gets lost in translation. After Derek left, I called Lisa with an update. Tonight's the night, I said. Full confession, all cards on the table. Are you ready for this? I've been ready for 20 years. The truth was, I felt lighter than I had in months. The pretending was almost over. Soon, everyone would know exactly who they were dealing with. And then the real fun could begin. The confrontation was set for 8 o'clock at our house. Derek arrived first, looking like a man walking to his own execution. Cleo was already there, having returned from Cassie's with a suitcase full of righteous indignation and wellness platitudes. Lisa and I arrived together, presenting a united front that made both Derek and Cleo visibly uncomfortable. This is cozy, Cleo said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. A family meeting with your lawyer girlfriend. Lisa's here as a witness, I said, settling into my favorite chair. Derek has something he wants to tell you. Derek shot me a look that could have melted copper wire. Maybe we should do this privately. No, I said firmly. Lisa stays. She's part of this now. Cleo looked between Derek and me, confusion replacing her anger. Part of what? Derek cleared his throat. Cleo, there's something you need to know about the business situation. What business situation? I've been making plans to leave the partnership, to start my own company. Cleo blinked. When did you decide this? About a month ago. A month ago? Her voice rose. You mean when I was... She stopped, glancing at Lisa. When you were what? I asked innocently. Nothing. Never mind. Oh, I think I know, Lisa said helpfully. When you were planning to suggest an open relationship to your husband? What interesting timing. The room went silent, except for the tick of the grandfather clock in the corner. Derek, Cleo said slowly, please tell me this is a coincidence. Derek looked at me pleadingly. I shook my head. He'd made his choice when he decided to betray our partnership. Now he could live with the consequences. It's not a coincidence, Derek admitted. We thought if you and Orion split up, it would be easier for me to take over the business. We? Cleo's voice had gone dangerously quiet. You said you were unhappy. You said you wanted something different. I just suggested that maybe an open relationship would give you the excuse you needed to end things with Orion. You suggested it? Not directly. I mentioned that I'd read an article about modern relationships, and maybe you should look into it. Cleo turned to stare at me. You knew. I suspected. The timing was too convenient. Your sudden interest in yoga classes that happened to coincide with Derek's new business plans. Your burner phone with texts from someone called D. Your calendar invite for our open relationship discussion, sent the same day Derek filed incorporation papers for his new company. You've been investigating us? I've been paying attention. There's a difference. Lisa pulled out a folder from her purse. Actually, I've been investigating. It's what lawyers do. She spread documents across the coffee table. Bank statements, loan applications, text message logs, social media screenshots. Derek's been planning this for months, Lisa said. New business registration, client contact lists, even preliminary contracts with some of your current customers. And Cleo, your social media activity shows a clear pattern of coordination with Derek's timeline. Cleo stared at the evidence like it was written in a foreign language. This is insane. You're both insane. What's insane, I said, is thinking I wouldn't notice. What's insane is assuming I'd just roll over and let you two destroy everything I've built. We weren't trying to destroy anything. No? Then what were you trying to do? Derek finally found his voice. We were trying to find a way to be happy. At my expense. You would have been fine. You could have kept the house, kept part of the business. Part of the business I built? How generous. We built it together. Did we? Because according to these loan applications, you've been telling banks that you're the primary owner of Vanton Electric. According to these client communications, you've been suggesting that I'm planning to retire and you're taking over operations. According to this evidence, you've been systematically undermining our partnership for months. Derek slumped back in his chair. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far, and now we're all here, dealing with the consequences. Cleo had been silent through this exchange, staring at the documents spread across our coffee table. Finally, she looked up at me. What do you want? I want honesty. I want acknowledgement. I want you both to admit what you've been doing. Fine, she said. I admit it. I was planning to leave you. Derek and I have been involved. We thought an open relationship would make the transition easier. Involved how? We've been seeing each other, spending time together, making plans. Plans for what? For a future. Together. I looked at Derek. Is that your understanding too? Derek nodded miserably. Yes. Good. Now we're all on the same page. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our neighborhood. 20 years of memories in this house, in this community. 20 years of building relationships, establishing trust, creating something meaningful. Here's what's going to happen, I said, turning back to face them. Derek, you're going to buy out my share of the business at fair market value. Lisa has already had it appraised. Orion, I can't afford. Then you'll get a loan. Use the business as collateral. That's what entrepreneurs do. And if I can't get approved for a loan, then you'll learn what it's like to be an employee instead of an owner. Your choice. I turned to Cleo. And you're going to move out, tonight. I live here. You live here as my wife. But you've made it clear That's not what you want to be anymore. So you'll live somewhere else as my soon-to-be ex-wife. You can't just throw me out. I'm not throwing you out. I'm accepting your request for an open relationship and taking it to its logical conclusion. You want freedom? You've got it. Complete freedom. That's not what I meant. Then you should have been clearer about what you did mean, but it's too late for clarification now. Lisa had been quiet through this exchange, but now she spoke up. There's one more thing. She pulled out her phone and showed us a recording app. This entire conversation has been recorded, with everyone's consent, of course. You all agreed to meet here knowing I was present as a legal witness. Cleo and Derek stared at the phone like it was a poisonous snake. Why? Cleo whispered. Because, I said, this isn't just about our marriage or our business partnership. This is about accountability. This is about consequences. This is about making sure that when people ask what happened to us, they get the truth instead of whatever story you two decide to spin. You're going to ruin us. You've already ruined yourselves. I'm just documenting it. The next hour was a blur of packing, arguing, and legal technicalities. Derek agreed to the buyout terms rather than face a protracted court battle. Cleo agreed to move in with Cassie temporarily while we worked out divorce proceedings. By 10 o'clock, they were both gone, leaving Lisa and me alone in the house that had been my home for 2 decades. How do you feel? Lisa asked. I considered the question. Lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy for a long time and finally put it down. Any regrets? About the marriage? About trusting Derek? About giving them both the benefit of the doubt for so long? I shook my head. My only regret is not paying attention sooner. What happens now? Now I rebuild. New business, new relationships, new life. The foundation is solid. I just need to clear away the debris. Lisa smiled. Need any help with the rebuilding? Are you offering? I'm offering. I looked around the empty house, already imagining how it would look without Cleo's wellness crystals and Derek's business awards cluttering the shelves. In that case, I said, I think I'm going to need a good lawyer. I know just the person. Outside, it started to rain, washing the streets clean and making everything look fresh and new. Inside, I was already planning my next move. The game was over, and I'd won. But more importantly, I'd learned something about myself in the process. I wasn't the pushover husband or the trusting brother anymore. I was Orion Vanton, and I was just getting started. 3 months later, the whole charade came crashing down in the most public way possible. Derek had managed to secure a loan for the business buyout, but barely. His new company, Vanton Enterprises, was struggling to land the clients he'd promised his investors. Turns out, 20 years of relationship building couldn't be transferred overnight, especially when those relationships were built on trust he'd systematically violated. Cleo had moved in with Cassie, but that arrangement was already showing cracks. 2 alpha personalities sharing a small apartment, while one of them dealt with divorce proceedings, and the collapse of her wellness influencer career was a recipe for disaster. The divorce was proceeding smoothly, with Lisa handling my legal interests with ruthless efficiency. Cleo had tried to claim half the business value, but the evidence of her conspiracy with Derek had undermined her position considerably. I thought the worst was behind us. I was wrong. The final confrontation came on a Thursday evening at the annual Chamber of Commerce Mixer, an event I'd attended for 15 years, where the entire local business community gathered to network and gossip. I arrived with Lisa, both of us dressed professionally and ready to make the rounds. My new solo electrical contracting business was thriving, and several potential clients had expressed interest in switching from Derek's operation to mine. Orion! Mayor Patterson waved us over to his table. Good to see you. How's the new venture going? Very well, thanks. Turns out integrity is still valued in this business. I'm glad to hear it. There have been some concerning rumors about Derek's operation, client complaints, missed deadlines, quality issues. I wasn't surprised. Derek had always been better at selling than delivering, and without me handling the technical details, his weaknesses were becoming apparent. "That's unfortunate," I said diplomatically. "I hope he figures it out." "Speaking of Derek," the mayor said, nodding toward the entrance, "there he is now." Derek had arrived with Cleo, both of them dressed like they were attending a wedding rather than a business mixer. They looked around the room with the desperate brightness of people trying too hard to appear successful. "This should be interesting," Lisa murmured. Derek spotted us and headed over with Cleo in tow. Their approach drew attention from nearby tables. Everyone knew about our situation, and they were curious to see how it would play out in public. "Orion," Derek said, extending his hand with forced joviality. "Good to see you, brother." I shook his hand briefly. "Derek, Cleo." "We wanted to thank you," Cleo said, her voice artificially bright, "for being so understanding about everything." "Understanding?" "About the divorce, about Derek's new business. We know it wasn't easy, but we're grateful that we could all handle it maturely." I stared at her, amazed by the audacity. She was trying to rewrite history in real time, turning their betrayal into a mutual decision and their conspiracy into mature communication. "That's an interesting perspective," Lisa said dryly. "Well," Cleo continued, "we're all adults here. Sometimes relationships change, and it's better to acknowledge that honestly than to pretend otherwise." "Honesty," I repeated. "That's important." "Exactly. And we're so glad that you found someone who makes you happy." She smiled at Lisa with what might have been genuine warmth if you didn't know better. Derek jumped in. "And the business transition has worked out well for everyone. I get to pursue my vision, you get to focus on what you enjoy most. Win-win." "Your vision," I said. "Tell me about that vision, Derek." "Well, modernization, efficiency, growth, taking the company to the next level." "By poaching clients and undercutting prices?" Derek's smile faltered. "That's just competitive business practice." "Is it? Because I've heard some interesting stories from former clients. Stories about missed deadlines, shoddy work, inflated bills. That doesn't sound like taking things to the next level." "There have been some growing pains." "Growing pains?" Mayor Patterson had been listening to our conversation. "Derek, I hate to interrupt, but we need to discuss the Henderson project. The electrical work failed inspection 3 times. The city is considering pulling your license." The color drained from Derek's face. "That's just a misunderstanding. We can fix any issues. The issues stem from basic code violations, work that any competent electrician should get right the first time." I felt a moment of sympathy for my brother, watching him realize that his grand plans were collapsing in the most public way possible. But then I remembered the months of deception, the careful manipulation, the willingness to destroy our partnership for his personal gain. "I'm sure Derek will figure it out," I said. "He's always been confident in his abilities." Cleo was looking between Derek and the mayor with growing alarm. Her wellness guru composure was cracking as she realized that their carefully constructed narrative was falling apart. "Maybe we should go," she whispered to Derek. "No," Derek said, his voice getting louder. "I'm not running away from gossip and rumors." "They're not rumors if they're true," Lisa pointed out. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, "that actions have consequences. It means that when you build a business on lies and betrayal, eventually the foundation crumbles." "I never lied to you." "You lied to me for months. You lied about your business plans. You lied about your relationship with my wife. You lied about your intentions. The only truth you ever told me was tonight, when you admitted what you'd been doing. We were trying to spare your feelings." "No, you were trying to spare yourselves the consequences of your choices." The conversation had drawn a crowd. Half the Chamber of Commerce was watching our family drama unfold like a soap opera. "This is ridiculous," Cleo said. "We're leaving." "Good idea," I said. But before you go, there's something everyone should know. I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app, the same one Lisa had used during our confrontation 3 months ago. Derek, would you like to tell everyone how long you've been planning to steal our clients? Or should I play the recording where you admit to manipulating my wife into asking for an open marriage so you could justify breaking up our business partnership? Derek went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. The room had gone completely silent. Even the bartender had stopped pouring drinks. Orion, Mayor Patterson said quietly, maybe we should take this somewhere private. No, I said. They wanted to make this public when they decided to attend this event together, presenting themselves as the happy couple who emerged from our mutual understanding. If they want to control the narrative, they should be prepared to defend it. Derek looked around the room, seeing the faces of clients, competitors, and community leaders, all waiting for his response. You're destroying me, he said finally. No, Derek. You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. The truth according to you. The truth according to documentation, bank records, text messages, recorded conversations, the truth according to evidence. Cleo grabbed Derek's arm. We're leaving. Now. They pushed through the crowd toward the exit, leaving behind a room full of stunned business professionals and one very satisfied ex-husband. Well, Mayor Patterson said after a moment, that was enlightening. It was honest, I corrected. Finally. Lisa squeezed my hand. How do you feel? I looked around the room, seeing the faces of people I'd known for years, people who now understood exactly what had happened and why. No more whispered speculation, no more wondering about the real story behind our divorce and business split. Free, I said, completely free. The rest of the evening was a blur of conversations with potential clients, expressions of support from colleagues, and quiet satisfaction at watching 20 years of careful reputation building finally pay off. Derek's business would probably survive, but it would never thrive. Cleo would find another yoga instructor to manipulate or another wellness trend to exploit. But their ability to hurt me, to control my narrative, to make me doubt my own worth, that was finished. I'd started this journey as the underestimated husband, the trusting brother, the reliable partner who could be taken for granted. I was ending it as something else entirely. Someone who understood that respect isn't given. It's earned. Someone who knew that trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. Someone who had learned the difference between being nice and being strong. The rain had stopped by the time Lisa and I left the mixer. The streets were clean and shining under the streetlights, reflecting our images back at us like a promise of new possibilities. So, Lisa said as we walked to my truck, what's next? Next, we build something better, something honest, something that can't be destroyed by lies or betrayal or manipulation.